You thought he was done? You thought the takes were too hot to handle? You better think again. He's back with even more scorching opinions, more controversial predictions, and the kind of truth bombs that only Zain Bando can deliver. If you missed the first round, prepare yourself. This is the follow-up you've been waiting for. It's time for Zain Zinger Part 2, another certified hit from the Empty the Bench Network. Here's your host, Zain Bando.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Zain Zinger Part 2 for Sunday, April 26, 2026. My name is Zain Bando. Hope you all are doing well on this fine Sunday morning, if you will, depending on where you are in the world as we speak. So, before we get underway and before we get to any of the particulars, just a few quick reminders. Zain Zinger Part 2 is the extension of Bando's Breakdowns. And speaking of Bando's Breakdowns, you can listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Acast, and so much more. You can follow the show across social media at Bando's Breakdown as the newest clips from episode 87 are being rolled out on a daily basis here over the next couple of days, leading into what will be a special episode 88 / new edition of this program, which we'll get to in just a little bit. And of course, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the ETB Network. To do so, please go to youtube.com/ETB Network. All right. So with that out of the way, once again, this is Zain Zinger Part 2. And of course, you can catch the episode and or replay live right now across several platforms, including X. We are live today on my Twitter account, the ETB Network Twitter account, the ETB Sports Twitter account, the Press Row Twitter account, my Twitter account, the ETB Network Twitter account, the ETB Sports Twitter account, the Bando's Breakdowns Twitter account, the MMA Outsiders Twitter account, and of course, the very active Football Forecast Twitter account, which delivered record numbers for night one of the NFL Draft. Shout out to everybody who was on the stream, myself included as well. So a huge stream for that as well. So excited to do more of those in the coming years, I guess, because the NFL Draft is only once a year. So figured I would plug that as well. Shout out to everybody who was on that stream. And speaking of Zain Zinger Part 2, while we are here, figured I would also mention this. This is very important. We will have a special Zain Zinger Part 2 live stream episode. That'll be this Wednesday with fellow sports betting analyst Ben Stevens. Has been around a very long time, known as Big Ten Ben on Twitter. Has been with several places, was originally with Sports Grid. That's where he did a lot of his work. Now he has done some stuff for VSiN, and he does independent content as well. Has gone through a couple of location changes and whatnot. So we've been trying to get this interview on the books for a while. So this will be kind of in a similar time slot to when Bando's Breakdowns usually airs. Usually it's 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, but we're gonna go live on Wednesday. So for the actual episode itself, which is what you guys are probably curious about, Bando's Breakdowns episode 88 program award here. We'll be going live, or we'll be airing this on Thursday. It'll be the regular show. So this is going to be an extension of what would have been on Bando's Breakdowns episode 88, but we decided to do it live just to maximize reach because we're noticing that this is going really well. And we already have 100 people in here, and I barely said anything yet about what we're going to be discussing today at all. And I'm just going through administrative things and look at how many people are already in this thing. So shout out to you guys. We'll be on here probably till about, I would say, roughly 10:35 Central, 10:40 Central, somewhere in there. We'll try to keep it as long as we can. I have a lot of other stuff to get to today after this, so I don't want to keep you guys too long, especially with hours to go until the NBA playoffs continue with a 4-game cushion today, which we'll get into those and we'll get into predictions for those games a little bit later on in the stream. But wanted to start off with something a little bit more serious, something I didn't think we'd be talking about on Sunday morning as well. So let's get into the stream if we can now with the first topic, which is UFC CEO Dana White decided to skip UFC Vegas 116, which had a boatload of decisions last night across 13 fights. I think there were 11 or 12 decisions, if I'm not mistaken. We'll get to UFC Vegas 116 in a little bit, but he attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and this is in no way a political topic. I'm here to tell you guys that he was interviewed by USA Today, and he was confirmed safe. So we're gonna watch that clip in just a minute. We're gonna react to it, but the news here is that he was not at UFC Vegas 116 last night, which makes sense because he's not. Actually, it doesn't make sense. He usually isn't out cage side for the Apex fights. Usually when he comes, he's in the back. And if you don't believe me, go check out one of Aiden Ross's newest streams. He kind of goes over that as well. So figured I would mention that before anybody tries to dunk on him, if you will. But let's take a look at this clip again, courtesy of USA Today, who was there covering the Correspondents' Dinner last night. Several celebrities showed up to this thing, including Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith was also confirmed safe in this whole thing as well. And these interviews were very brief, so it's a very brief clip. But without further ado, let's take a look at this, because this was some pretty interesting news last night, if you will, as it was breaking in the middle of the would-be or the eventual main event between Aljamain Sterling and Yusuf Zalal, which we'll get to in just a little bit here. But here we go. This is courtesy of USA Today and, of course, MMA Junkie. So let's take a look at this here really quick. And as we do that, just so you guys know as well, there seem to be a lot of people at this thing alongside that. So just bear in mind that it could be a little bit difficult to hear him, but I think they did a pretty good job of getting him up close and personal, if you will. So let's take a look at this. And again, courtesy of USA Today. And let's take a look at this video.
Inside, they started up. All of a sudden, it just started getting noisy. Tables getting flipped over.
So I don't know if you guys just noticed that he took a picture with amidst chaos. I can't even begin to describe just how unbelievable that is. But anyway, let me continue.
Guys running in with guns, and they were screaming, "Get down!" I didn't get down. It was fucking awesome. I literally took every minute of it in, and it was a pretty crazy, unique experience.
So you were on the aisle. What exactly?
I was sitting. We were sitting right in front of the table.
Okay.
Right in front of where the president was.
Yes. And what exactly happened? So someone got tackled, or like what?
Nobody got tackled, but guys came in looking for shooters. They came toward our table. I thought the shooter was over by us or something.
So that was that, and of course, they shoot everybody away because, of course, they were trying to evacuate the facility and whatnot. But just a wild scene there. Kind of back to this, if we can. But nonetheless, though, just a total crazy sequence of events there, as you guys just saw. Again, he attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where it was where it was obviously I guess I could say there was an active threat at this thing, and luckily they got everybody out of there. But just the whole thing was complete chaos. There's still more information to be found out about this thing, but just to even stomach that he was safe at it is unbelievable. But I'm gonna go out and I want to say a very bold take, which is something I didn't think I'd say a couple of weeks ago. Into the 118 people watching this, I hope you're listening. I think they need to figure out some extra contingency plans for this White House event in a couple months here. I think it's safe to say that I mean, maybe moving venues or even securing it even further, I think would be a huge benefit to them, because you just never know. Apparently, people that were on the scene at this thing, um, they they said it was like really easy to get into it. So that's really scary in itself to think about. I was really surprised to hear that, and obviously extremely disappointing stuff there, just from that whole thing for it to get ruined. But luckily he is safe. So is Stephen A. Smith. But nonetheless, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I hope something comes out of it to where, I don't know. I think you have some massive security issues to figure out over the next couple of months if you're going to try to put on a fight where there's 85,000 people across the street and only a couple thousand on the actual White House lawn. It could end up being a disaster. I hope it isn't, but it seems like there's just too much risk involved to even remotely think about this even being a possibility. So figured I'd mention that. Those are my thoughts on that. Let's move on now to the fights. Back in Vegas, Meta Apex, Aljamain Sterling, Yusuf Zalal main event at featherweight. Pretty big fight in the featherweight division. Aljamain Sterling, former UFC bantamweight champion. Yusuf Zalal came into this fight on an 8-fight win streak, and I called it. I was a freaking genius. I called this when I said that Sterling would win by decision, and sure enough, he did. His wrestling was too much for him. He tried to submit him several times. Zalal couldn't get off. Zalal was landing some pretty nice shots in the 5th round, but he wasn't following up with anything remotely substantial. Huge win for Sterling, puts him right in title contention. Did have a nice call out of Alexander Volkanovski, but did admit after the event that Movsar Evloev does deserve it a lot more, which I completely agree. Movsar Evloev is the one fighter the UFC has continued to shelf for whatever reason and not get a title shot against Volkanovski. Interesting stuff overall. Do I think Sterling versus Volk is a very compelling fight, given that it's the former bantamweight champion against the current 2-time UFC featherweight champion? Yeah, absolutely. But Sterling has a lot more work to do. That was a big win, but that was arguably the first of potentially a couple wins that he would need to firmly solidify himself as the number one contender. He did come in, I'm pretty sure, in the top 10 as well. And of course, Zalal, as I just alluded to, had not lost in a really long time. Overall, a super, super grappling heavy fight. And for the rest of the card was just whatever. I went 6-7 on this card. Not a lot of good fights to really talk about. Besides the opening fight on the main card, that was a really nice knockout from Ryan Spann. Knocked out a seasoned grappler and Marcus Buchecha. But outside of that fight, and maybe the Jackson McVeigh fight, those are the only two that to me really stood out. The rest were kind of boring decisions. This was a whatever card. And it didn't seem like there were a ton of people at this card. I knew that a bunch of VIPs and kind of some UFC gambling influencers were there. And in case you're wondering, no, Nina Drama was not there. She was busy playing Baccarat with Neon and Armand Tarzukian, which Armand Tarzukian has been everywhere the last couple of weeks, getting into some more mischief, and not in the legal sense. Just he's having a very good time right now as he waits around to figure out what the UFC is going to do with him next. But overall, this card was whatever. Again, as I alluded to, 6-7 on the card. 25, 23, and 2 for the month of April, as it was the last UFC event in the month of April. I'm pretty sure I'm now at, let's see here. What am I at? I was at 86. I was at 86 wins going into last night. So I think I'm at 92 now. Let me double check that. If I'm mistaken, I think that's correct. I actually beat out Jack Gold. He went 5-8, and I went 6-7. So let me double check here. Yeah, we're at 92 wins for the year so far, and we're 5-7 in main events. So we're creeping back up. We're hoping to get these next two right. I'm not going to reveal who I have for the Perth main event yet. Haven't really thought about the Perth main event as of yet, but overall, this card was a whatever card. If you missed it, I don't blame you. But for some reason, because I am a genius sometimes, 5 of my predictions were decision wins, and sure enough, I was a freaking decision king last night. I got 5 exact decisions right, so I can't complain. And there you go. All right, let's talk about the NFL draft. It just wrapped up yesterday. A few key storylines. Fernando Mendoza goes number 1 to the Raiders. That's not a surprise. We all knew that was happening, but it's cool to see that Fernando Mendoza has fully immersed himself into the culture of just being one of the guys. He's very, very humble and he's buttoned up, and now he's starting to swear a little bit when he's hanging out with Max Crosby, but he still gives a lot of good interviews, and I will give my co-host on ETB Sports, Nick Morganson, some credit here. Fernando Mendoza is very good at being media rehearsed. That is for sure. We'll see about his quarterback ability, but Fernando Mendoza goes number 1. Ohio State had a boatload of players drafted. They had 5 players drafted within the first 2 rounds. A lot of those guys are going to be studs, in my opinion. So that was kind of there. Diego Pavia, there's a lot of news about him. Diego Pavia goes undrafted. That was kind of a huge story. And there's a quote that's being taken out of context by Pro Football Talk that he doesn't have an agent, which is a complete utter joke. I think Pavia is going to get a shot. It's a matter of where, when, how, why, that kind of whole thing. So I don't know. I do hope he does get a chance because I think he's very good, but I do think his family causing some off the field problems did not do many favors. So that didn't help either. And then Luke Altmaier going undrafted, man. It's a complete bummer in my opinion. I think he was one of the better quarterbacks in this draft class. It was a weak quarterback draft class overall. He told 24/7 Sports and Illini Inquirer's Jeremy Warner that it was a what specific adjective did he use? I have the story up here. I'm going to look at it. It's a word I use quite often. A torturous experience. Yeah, torturous is the right word. But there is a silver lining in this. He did sign with the Detroit Lions, so that was really cool. Gabe Akis, drafted by New England. That was awesome to see from an Illinois standpoint. J.C. Davis gets drafted by the Giants, so that'll be cool. So those two guys will be playing each other once every 4 years. And then, of course, Miles Scott reunites with Pat Bryant in Denver. That is really cool. That was one of the first things I thought about. I'm like, oh, that's going to be awesome seeing those guys play in Denver together on either side of the ball. Those are going to be some fun practice days for sure between those two. But it's cool to see that those guys have now inserted themselves into the next level. I'm hoping it works out for Luke Altmaier as well. But yeah, overall, this draft, again, was just whatever, man. I mean, this class was just okay. 2027 is the class you got to really look at, is the one where it's like, okay, it feels like we're getting some real talent back. And this isn't to discount anybody in this class at all that just got picked or signed undrafted wise, but no one was really talking about this draft as like a must-see TV product, but it seemed like a lot of people in Pittsburgh had a good time. Obviously, as I just alluded to earlier in this stream, as well, We obviously had over 1,000 people watching us, so that obviously does help in the grand scheme of things when you're trying to grow a channel and stuff. So figured I would mention that as well. And yeah, overall, I thought it was just a very okay draft. What's going on here? Nonetheless, though, it was just a 3-day extravaganza stretch, but it's now over. We can move closer and closer to the NFL season. The Ravens and the Cowboys will be playing each other in the Rio game. That's exciting. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to the season starting. But let's get into some playoffs now. Let's start in the NHL. Let's go over what's going on in the postseason. The Carolina Hurricanes advanced in their series, which is exciting. So they got the job done as well. Let's take a look at that. So Carolina swept the Ottawa Senators 4-0, winning game 4-2. Going over some of the games that happened last night. Minnesota evens the series with the Dallas Stars, going back to the Lone Star State, 3-2 in overtime. The Penguins survived to live another day in Philadelphia to stay alive in the series, going home to Pittsburgh to try to force a game 6. And then, of course, in today's slate, beginning at 1 p.m., Buffalo takes on Boston. The Sabres trying to go up 3-1. Will the Bruins prevent them from doing so? Colorado looking to sweep the LA Kings today. In LA, that's at 3:30 today. And then the other 2 games to cap the slate off, Tampa Bay versus Montreal. The Canadiens lead 2-1. They had a heroic win the other night. And Anaheim looking to take a surprising 3-1 series lead against Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. Looking at Monday night's slate, you have a game 5 for sure between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. That's tomorrow. Vegas versus Utah at 8:30. And then a game 5 on Tuesday between Boston and the Sabres. And of course, we shall see what happens with some of these other ones. A would-be game 6 in Philadelphia would be Wednesday night should Pittsburgh win game 5. So that's kind of a nutshell into the NHL postseason. Let's take a look at the NBA. We had some major games last night, including a major injury in the Minnesota-Denver game. But speaking of Minnesota, Ayo Dosunmu, 43 points, 39 of them off the bench to beat Denver and to put Denver in a must-win situation going into its next game of that series. That is huge. And then recent breaking news as well that I figured I would plug. Shout out to the internal chat for this one. And it has to do with Anthony Edwards. According to Shams Charania, Minnesota Timberwolves star Anthony Edwards has sustained a bone bruise and hyperextension in his left knee and is expected to miss multiple weeks. Sources tell ESPN this is a major injury, even though Minnesota is on the verge of winning the series against Denver. Maybe it sparks a Nuggets comeback that we least expect. But at the very least, though, Ayo Dosunmu carrying the torch last night in Minnesota, winning game 4 and doing so in heroic and dominant fashion was awesome to see. Let's take a look at some of these other NBA playoff scores as well. Let's see here. So the Knicks tied the series with Atlanta 2 games apiece. OKC is 1 win away from sweeping the Phoenix Suns, winning yesterday 121-109. All right, let's take a look at the rest of these here if we can. All right, and then looking over at let's keep going here. And then let's see. Orlando took a 2-1 lead against Detroit. And that was all of them yesterday. So today's slate features Cleveland against Toronto. I think Cleveland wins that. San Antonio against the Trailblazers in the second game. I like the Spurs in that one. I like Boston. And I like the Lakers to get the sweep tonight against Houston. I think LeBron James's heroics have been nothing short of insane. The game on Friday night was must-see television, and we'll see if the Lakers can keep it rolling here this time in Houston, in front of a crowd that's going to be very, very anxious, knowing that the season is on the line for the Rockets and knowing that they have to win at least 2 games to try to give themselves a fighting pulse to potentially force a would-be Game 7. So we shall see, meaning winning 2 games to try to give themselves the opportunity to go win, to go win in the game when it matters most. So we shall see. But that's going to do it, though, for the NBA section of this. Let's talk about the Paige Shiver interview. Paige Shiver interviewed on ABC in regards to the Sherrone Moore situations. Some very troubling details to come out of this thing. Paige Shiver talking about how they were in a relationship apparently for 4 years, that Sherrone Moore controlled every aspect of her life, which is very, very disturbing, and that Michigan didn't do enough to help her. Some people have called her out for lying about how long she was at Michigan, according to some records. But nonetheless, though, this is just a messed up situation overall. I feel bad for everybody involved in this thing. But accountability is important. I can't speak for whether she should have come forward sooner than when she did. But what I can say is, her speaking out against this and her being really open about it, I think is critically important. I also think it's one of those things too where, you don't know how it's going to be perceived by the public, and it seems like it's very mixed as to what the public thinks of Paige Shiver. She's totally wiped her digital footprint clean. You can't even find her on any social medias, for probably good reason. It's unfortunate to say that. And, Sherrone Moore did do some things wrong, in my humble opinion. And I'm sure that she did some things wrong as well, but maybe this will spark change, maybe this won't, but I think overall, I think it's just it's a bad look, and it's a sad situation all around, no matter how you slice or dice it. So that's kind of how I feel about that there. But yeah, that's going to essentially do it for another stream of Zan Zinger Part 2. Before we get out of here, though, just a few reminders. For those of you tuning in late to this, you can catch Zan Zinger Part 2 every Sunday right here on YouTube and or X. Very important that you do so. And obviously, drop me a comment, drop me a like, tell me what you think of this whole thing. 152 people are in here right now, which is, again, greatly appreciated. Thank you so much to those who did tune into the stream today. I greatly appreciate you guys. And then again, as another reminder, and then a few more plugs before we get out of here. Wednesday, April 29th, next Wednesday with Ben Stevens will be live, 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific for about a half hour. And then we might talk about some stuff on the back end, the final 20 minutes, just solo based on what breaks and whatnot, or if there's anything that breaks at all. But excited to talk to him. He's been someone that I've known in the online community for a long time. He'll tell you the story of how he found out who I was, which is a great story. It actually goes back about over 4 years now. So I will let him do the honors of that, and then we'll get into some thoughts on the NBA and the NHL and maybe the UFC even from a betting perspective, whatever he wants to talk about. I'll kind of let him have the floor, and I'll let him dictate the conversation. And I just want it to be interesting. I want it to be fun. I want it to feel like, it's kind of a bar talk conversation, if you will, but also business like at the same time, kind of feeling like whatever direction he wants to take the stream in, he certainly can. And excited to get his thoughts on a few things. We'll probably talk about some picks he likes, some props he likes, future series that he likes, and whatever else comes to mind, we will more than likely discuss as well. So figured I would mention that. And then again, that also affects Bando's Breakdowns episode 88, which will air on Thursday. Pretty sure 3 Eastern, noon Pacific for this, given this special circumstance of Ben Stevens coming on the stream this week, which I'm very excited to discuss everything with him about everything I just said. So looking very forward to that as well. And looking forward to some other stuff to go alongside everything that is the Bando's breakdowns portfolio. But nonetheless, just getting back to this here in the final few minutes to talk about what is on the horizon. So on the horizon now that the NFL draft is all over, we'll keep doing episodes every single Friday. Moving forward here, schedule may be altered a little bit based on days and times of certain things that are coming up. But expect some cool stuff in the works. We'll do something for the White House event, assuming the White House event still happens. I'll be live for Big Ten football media days in Chicago. So if we can find a table to set up, we might do a Zain Zinger from the Hilton in Chicago after one of the Big Ten media days, depending on which day I decide to pop in. It'll probably be the first day because when Illinois is going to be there, that'll be in July. And shoot, I'm sure we'll be doing some cool stuff. Maybe from Geese Memorial Stadium this fall, we'll do some podcasts and we'll do some we'll do some Bielema post game stuff, I'm sure. And then we'll get into the basketball season, and I'm sure we'll do some stuff with Underwood. And I'm sure I'll have plenty of plans in the works as we get closer to the fall. But excited to have some time off here. It seems like things are starting to slow down in my world a little bit, but this is when the UFC becomes at its peak every year with all the major fights they have planned in the summer months and all that good stuff. So excited to cover it all with you guys. Very much looking forward to everything. And yeah, this was a fun stream. Shout out to the 156 of you who are watching. Be sure to tell your friends. Be sure to send this to people. Be sure to let them know that I'm live every Sunday. This is my slot. And very much looking forward to seeing how this stream grows. It seems we're getting better numbers the last couple weeks, just overall across all the platforms that we do stuff on. And if you like what you see, again, please be sure to like, follow, subscribe. Follow me personally on Twitter and Instagram at Zain Bando 99. Would be very important. You guys did that. That's where you can get all my takes, all my latest articles across all the platforms I write for, and all that stuff. So anything you guys need, I'm sure it's all over my social medias. So until next week, this has been another edition of Zain Zinger Part 2. My name is Zain Bando again. Thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy the NBA and NHL playoffs today, coming up over the next 5-6 hours, starting at about noon Central, 1 Eastern, and we'll catch you guys soon. Have a good one, everyone. Cheers.